What's going on, good people, man? Look, welcome back to the area, man. Look, y'all already know who I am. My name is Ivan Tosin, Certified Peer Support Specialist here at Capital Area Human Services. Look, today, man, look, we have a very special topic. As you are aware, we are in the month of October. In the month of October, we have a few different awarenesses, observances. Did I say that right? Observances is how you say that word? Okay, so of course we know breast cancer, domestic violence, emotional wellness month or day. Somebody correct me on that in the comments if you need to. But also in the month of October is bullying awareness. And I know this is a word that we've probably heard more in the past 10 years or so. Let me just say I probably heard it more. And today I'm joined by two of our in-house professionals that's going to educate us a little more and talk to us, just have a conversation in regards to bullying. So without further ado, let's get some introductions going on.
I'm Shelby Wilson. I am a school-based therapist here in Baton Rouge.
I'm Dr. Bryan Gros. I'm a clinical child psychologist here in Baton Rouge with Capital Area. I've been here about 25 years, so I put some time in.
Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit.
A little bit.
So, yeah, man, so let's hop straight into it, man. So let's talk about bullying. So I know we just had a recent conversation and I was asking you guys about defining bullying, and you kind of told me how I guess you can't really put one definition to it. So let's start off by talking about maybe different types of bullying. When we hear the word bullying, what are ways people can be bullied? What are different known types of bullying? What does that look like?
You know, when people hear the word bullying, they often think of the old school bullying, where you would have bullies on the playground that would strong arm other students, resort to physical aggression, hitting, kicking, basically, for lack of a better word, beating up other students. So that would fall under what we call physical aggression or physical bullying. Okay. But there are certainly other types.
Yeah, and so there's cyberbullying now. We've got social media. Even my elementary school are on TikTok, Instagram, that sort of thing. And so people can make mean comments, instant message them mean things, send threats, or spread rumors. Mm-hmm. So it also can follow them home.
Mm.
And then there's verbal bullying, which really, doesn't involve physical aggression, but those include things like blackmail, which certainly can be done on social media, but with pictures and threats to do things, threats of physical harm, basically strong-arming people, give me your lunch money, where the victims sort of cower down in fear.
Yeah.
So there's several different forms of verbal bullying. And bullies, don't typically use only one form. They may use more than one or several forms.
Gotcha. So tell me this, man. So let's just go to some scenarios, or I say scenarios, but anyways, okay, right now, let's just say we have a kid right here. This kid is being bullied, girl, boy, whoever it is, and they come to you. I know you're in a school setting, you're here in a clinical setting, but either way, they come to you and they say, hey, I'm being bullied by such and such, this is how they're bullying me. What do we do? How is that addressed based on, I know with you being in the school, being in the clinic, what do we do with this child that has given us this report?
Yeah.
Okay. And I can go first since I'm at the school, and so usually at the place where they're being bullied. So my first thing is I want to get the details, right? Like, who is this person? Where is it happening? Is it on the bus? Is it in the classroom? Are they in your class? Like, can you get away from them, right? Because if they're in their class, and so once I kind of get the information and the details about exactly what's happening, then I want to know, who else have you told, right? Because my role at the school, I don't punish kids. I can't pull another random kid out to talk to them. So who have you told? Have you told your teacher? Have you told the TOR specialist? Have you told, which is timeout room, so he does like the discipline. Okay. Have you told the principal, vice principal? And so, we talk about that, and if they haven't, I always ask, do you want us to go talk to them? Because you do want to teach that kid to advocate for themselves, and that's one of my main roles, is like teaching how to advocate, and also I'm an advocate. So a lot of times we'll walk to the vice principal together, and I'm like, hey, share what just happened, what you told me. Sometimes if they're shy, they're uncomfortable, I might share, but they're still there with me to agree. And so from there, depending on the situation, They usually would investigate, talk to the kid who was bullying, talk to maybe a witness. And then it goes from there. They do investigate. I was told, I talked to my guidance counselor, there's a form they can fill out if it's official bullying, and then it is investigated from there to figure out what's real, if it's been consistent, that sort of thing.
And I'm about to come to you, Mr. Bryan. One more question with that, because this sounds like it can be a kind of difficult situation to solve per se, because let's just, I'm looking at it in an instance of, somebody reports some kind of abuse or whatever, even as adults, and sometimes if they can't prove that any crime was committed, they will just, okay, we can open up an investigation, but it doesn't stop it right then and there. So what kind of length of time are we looking at? Typical, I don't know if there's a typical length of time that we're looking at and maybe finding some resolution in between this. Yeah.
Well, one thing that's really important with bullying and like the legal definition is it's very consistent. It's happening for a long time over time. So one person teasing you one time isn't officially considered bullying.
Okay.
So that's one thing you have to look at. Is the same person been teasing you for 2 weeks, for 6 months? And so that is one part that has to go into it. How consistent is it? I don't really know 100% the timeline because it's going to change client to client, student to student.
Sure.
But I mean, my school is really good about pulling people. We also have cameras. So sometimes, and that's a way to get the kids to tell the truth. Like, hey, we can go look at the cameras. We had to look at the cameras yesterday. Like, we had to find out what was happening. And so, and then you can pull parents in, get their perspective. And they'll also pull kids' phones. Like, hey, because they'll say they're texting.
Yes.
I've seen them like, okay, we're looking at your text. We see what you said. And so, and because all kids have phones, that's a really good way to have a paper trail.
That's true.
And so they will check that too, or get the parents to check it. And so, again, I don't have a specific timeline, but
No, that's good.
they're definitely,
No,
I
I mean, you definitely answered. So, no, we're good. All right, Mr. Bryan, so in the clinical setting, and you may be very well seeing this same kid who she's seeing, but that may be coming to you, for other reasons, but they're opening up to you about this issue that's going on in school. From your aspect, like, what are we doing to help this child?
You made some excellent points, definitely. The most important thing to do first is listen. You may have been, I may have been the first person that this child or student told. So we want to just listen. We want to not judge the child. Don't want to give any child or teenager the idea that it's his or her fault.
Yeah.
So listen. I get details just like Miss Shelby does. Get as many details as possible. So I do a lot of listening. I ask them if they told anyone else. I do ask, would you like to tell someone? I certainly think it's important to tell the parent because I work as an advocate too, and parents can be advocates for their children too.
Yeah.
So typically we'll tell the parent, and I'll make the parent aware that each school and the Department of Education has a pretty strict policy on bullying and pretty objective definition of bullying, where it's not just a one-time name calling. So we want to explore that as well. Yeah. And I work a lot with the parents on being an advocate for their children. One of the things that I always stress for parents, if your child is being bullied and he reports that, you want to create a paper trail. You certainly want to communicate with the child's teacher, the assistant principal, the guidance counselor at school. Usually the guidance counselor or teacher is a good place to start. And you can do that verbally because parents communicate verbally over the phone with teachers a lot, but you do want to follow that up with an email. So you create a paper trail because you do want a paper trail in the case that we don't want these to fall through the cracks at school is what I'm trying to say. And I'll continue to work with that child on being more assertive. One of the things certainly that I notice is that a lot of children, I would say most children who are a victim of bullying, whatever form it might be, are scared. So they typically don't stand up for themselves.
Yeah. No, that's good. So what are we like? Okay, I'm sorry. I had one thought and I got another quick thought. So let me ask this because a lot of times, rightfully so, the focus is usually going to be on the person that's coming forward, the victim, right? What about the kid that's doing the bullying? Is there ever any conversation with that kid, or is that kid ever somebody that you're seeing and they are the bully? How do we deal with the bully?
I for sure see kids that would be classified as bullies. And I mean, there are activities, there are things I think a lot of times with the kids who are bullying, you're trying to get to the root of that because we know that a lot of times it's a trickle-down effect. Is someone bullying you? Do you have an older brother, an older sister? Are your parents bullying you? Because sometimes that does happen. So getting to the root of where did you learn this? Why are you doing this? And so I think once you get to the root of that, you can kind of try to break down, okay, well, there's better ways to handle these negative feelings you're having, whether it be just negative attention seeking. A lot of kids negative attention seek. And so for sure, and a lot of times I'm referred kids who like, hey, they're bullying. And another thing I just want to throw in is a lot of kids are being bullied and they're bullies. Like they have both sides of it. And I see that a lot and they might just report that they're being bullied. They're like, oh, well, then when you talk to the teacher's like,
really? Like,
Right.
And so you've got both sides of that. So sometimes you're dealing with both sides of the coin with the same client.
The bullying is being bullied by a stronger kid, and that victim is bullying a kid who's weaker.
Yep, for sure.
See a lot of that.
Are there common areas? So when we're talking about bullying, like these things take place like more than other places, like. How does that work as far as, I guess, just based on you guys' experience or research? Do kids typically bully in certain areas, or is it online, or even in person? Like, is there like a certain place, time, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so definitely at my school, and I think at a lot of schools, the less supervision, the more often it's to happen. So more kids in a space. So the two places I hear a lot is the bathroom is the number one, which makes sense. You can't supervise the bathroom. And so especially if they're going in the middle of class, so there's no teacher specifically even monitoring outside, you go to the bathroom, a kid from another class ends up in the bathroom, and then the other place is the bus because there's one driver, she can't monitor behaviors, and there's a mix of grades on the bus. So you're going to see a 5th grader and a kindergartner all on the same bus. So there's a big chance for those older kids to pick on the younger ones. So those are going to be the two spots that I see the most.
Typically where it's less supervision, it still can be done on the playground, at recess, or at lunch, where there's less supervision. It's typically done outside of the eye of the teacher or an adult. Sometimes it's done in the classroom at the back of class. Certainly bullying on social media or cyberbullying can be done in class because most students have phones there. Like Ms. Shelby said, the bus is a big one. Some kids, not the majority, not most, will sometimes do it in front of teachers. Yeah.
I understand. So let me ask a question, like with because the bus thing is interesting, right? So of course, I think we all have some maybe sort of experience, even growing up ourselves. I know the bus for me was, a place I can put out my blunt and get on the bus and, and get off and then do it again. And nobody ever says anything. We can fight on the bus, whatever. They don't do anything. So how do we, I don't want to say fix that because, there may not be one answer for that, but what are some ways that you believe that we could even prevent in these certain areas? Bathroom may be a harder one, but let's just say for the bus, how can we decrease maybe some of that activity?
Cameras are almost everywhere these days. That's a big one. I don't know how cameras are on the bus nowadays, but most buses have a camera.
Okay.
A lot of schools certainly have in-school cameras, but some have some outside on the playground. But there are always going to be students who can find this sort of secret area off camera. I remember back when I was in elementary school, there was a sort of this large alley away from the teachers, and it was not uncommon to witness bullying there or even be a victim of bullying.
Yeah.
So supervision cameras is a big one. Certainly alerting teachers to be on the lookout, even if they weren't able to get enough evidence during the investigation to identify this kid as bullying another, having teachers keep an eye on certain kids. Because most teachers have an idea of the troublemakers in the class,
Yeah.
the kids who are likely to get in trouble, the kids who get in fights, or kids who are just more difficult to handle.
Yeah.
So certainly alerting teachers and school administrators, even if they're unable to complete the investigation, I think is a big one.
Okay.
And then another thing, on buses specifically, seating charts. So if you have a seating chart where kids, and then you can separate different grades. A lot of my kids have to sit with their siblings. So like all siblings sit, which is better because they're going to be closer to the same age or not, but seating charts. And then if you know your kid's consistently being bullied, ask the bus driver or the administration, can they sit at the front of the bus? If they're right behind the bus driver, that's less likely to happen. And I know with a lot of buses, they do have seating charts. Probably not as much for the older kids, but I do think that can really help because you can monitor exactly what was happening. Oh, if they're saying this person bullied them, well, that makes sense. There's a seat beside them, so you kind of have an idea who's around them at all times, I think is helpful.
So Shelby, and Miss, both of you guys, Shelby and Bryan, tell me this. Have you personally, we're going to get personal here, you know what I'm saying? So coming up as a child, can you personally identify with some of the things that we are talking about? Have you been through this? And if so, what did that look like and how did you navigate to the other side of bullying?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier, almost everybody experienced bullying at some point, and I definitely was. And just for silly things, and we were talking about earlier, just kids just find that one thing that's a little different, right? You were saying earlier, if you're super smart, you get bullied. If you're not smart, you get bullied. So it's like, where is that perfect medium?
Yeah.
And so for me, I was bullied a lot because I was tall. I'm a tall girl. That was just kind of one of those things that I got attention for. I mean, you just notice it. And so that's another thing. Like, what do you notice about a person? Well, let me tease them for it. And so for me, there was definitely some rough middle school years. I think that was when, that's when a lot of the bullying happens. But I definitely think having people you trust, if that's friends, if that's your parents, if that's a teacher, right? So really having people that care about you. And so leaning on them and kind of just, I guess, focusing on the more positive. And then eventually, for most people, they grow up and they realize that, hey, they had their issues too, right? Because I think in the moment for kids, the kids that I talk to and me, it's hard to realize that, like, oh, they're dealing with their own issues too. It's like they're pointing out my problems and my issues, and are they perfect, or do they not have their own issues? And so I think just like as you get older and processing that, it's a lot easier to accept that and know that we all had issues, and you're just growing up and figuring things out.
That's good. That's good.
A big yes for me too. You mentioned middle school. That's when bullying peaks.
Oh yeah.
And mine peaked being about the 7th to 8th grade year. I was also tall. I was lanky. I made good grades, so I was a tall, lanky, four-eyed, smart kid. And I've got a pretty thick skin, and that didn't bother me so much. But I remember basically being verbal bullied, threatened with fighting. Hey, you want to fight? Two kids sort of following me around, 7th or 8th grade. And to get personal, it was pretty scary.
Yeah.
I didn't tell any adult. The vast majority of kids who are bullied and teenagers aren't going to tell anyone, not even their friends, because it was scary.
Yeah.
So I experienced it, and as most kids, even those who are not victims of bullying, I knew who the other bullies were.
Yeah.
I saw other kids who got bullied. And most kids, just due to anxiety and fear, don't say anything, which is unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, so y'all, since we are taking a trip down memory lane, so I definitely remember dealing with it myself. More, I think, among the verbal, and so like we talked about, where's that safe place? Because for me, I was always a smart, like wherever I applied myself, right? But naturally, normally, like, I just seem to grasp things a little different,
Yeah.
Like you can tell a joke and I may not get it like everybody else, but I get it in my own way. But because mine is different than yours, mine is considered to be slow or dumb or
lesser. Yeah.
Or lesser, whatever. And so around that time, when I was in middle school, the movie Forrest Gump was out. I forgot how long it had been out, but
You are young, or I am old. One of them.
38, man. So I mean, I feel like I'm,
I'm something 8.
And so there was one of the characters on there was Bubba, if you remember Bubba, his friend. And so the way Bubba used to talk, because for one, they started calling me Slow. So Slow was my nickname. And I would act like none of this bothered me, right? Yeah. And I would start to play along with it. And then, of course, after that movie, they would start calling me Bubba. Oh, that's Bubba, or whatever. And I was like, yeah, well, just play along with it. But on the inside, it was like, oh, this is hard. But like, it literally killed a lot of my self-esteem in a way, of what I thought things that I could do, couldn't do, just my confidence, period. And I began to take on that mindset, well, maybe I am slow. Maybe I am dumb. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I can't, maybe something is wrong with me, you know what I'm saying? And so, but and I think you hit the nail on the head, just that it takes maturity to get there and realize that, some people are dealing with their own problems, even kids. And, but a lot of times, kids can just be so brutal, you know what I'm saying? And you don't realize the impact that you have on another child when this happens. But anyways, man, I have a question, man, and we're gonna have to be landing this plane soon. Sorry, y'all. I know this is great. I know this is good. I know y'all wish we could go on forever, but we can't. So let's talk about this, because normally when we hear the word bullying, I believe the first picture that comes to a person's head is a kid doing something to another kid, so something on Facebook, Twitter, what's the other one? TikTok. Now I was about to say the other T. And so, but adults. Is it a thing among adults to be bullied, and what does that look like? And maybe have you ever dealt with somebody? I mean, I know both of you are in settings where you mainly deal with kids, but I'm pretty sure in your since you've been in the field that you've dealt with adults on some level. So talk to us about that.
And this is consistent with the research. With most bullies grow out of it. Most develop empathy. It peaks in middle school. You see less of it in high school. You probably see more of it in social media on high school. So it lessens in high school, and it lessens as one gets into adulthood. Although I've never experienced it, certainly bullying at the adult level can occur, and that typically happens when there's an inherent power individual, like a boss and a superior or a supervisor, or certainly partners, husband and wife or domestic partners. Then you're getting into domestic violence, which is probably the most severe form of any type of bullying, and that's adult bullying. So it can occur, absolutely, but it typically is this inherent power and this power differential. Most likely is when it's going to occur.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
And speaking of the domestic violence, if you think about it, when we're talking about these kids being bullied and where they're being bullied, it's in areas they can't leave, right? You have to be at school, you have to ride the bus, and so overwhelmingly as an adult, if you're in a situation you don't like, you can get out. I mean, and of course domestic violence is a good example of people who feel like they have to stay because of financial,
they
legal
feel trapped.
They feel trapped. But if you have a boss, hopefully you can quit and find a better job. So I do think a lot of times, and we're talking about self-esteem, you also have better self-esteem. So now, if somebody talks about my height, I'm like, okay, like that's a you issue, not a me issue. And so I think the combination of those two things definitely just make you more resilient, and you can leave. But it definitely does happen. You see it. And one of the bullying aspects that we didn't talk about, because we were mostly talking about kids, was sexual bullying, which would kind of also fall into sexual harassment. And so I do think in workplaces, that's probably going to be the most bullying you're seeing, is not being able to escape lewd comments, people talking about your appearance, that kind of stuff. So that can be a form of bullying, because you do feel intimidated or you feel uncomfortable. And so we didn't talk about that too much, because we were mostly talking about children, which of course it can happen in high school for sure. But I would say for adults, that's going to be, we do trainings. Every year we do a training on sexual harassment and how important it is to make, your coworkers and people
Yes.
around you feel safe.
Yes.
And I think that happens at a lot of workplaces
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and you're right. It does happen with kids and teenagers.
Yeah.
This sort of sexual bullying. You're blank, or making lewd comments, or just straight up blatantly obvious
Yeah.
comments about one's sexuality, designed to make the person feel
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
Designed to push those buttons. Yeah.
You know, and I'm glad you kind of wrapped that around, because I never thought about domestic violence as a kind of, you know, bullying kind of being somewhat, it's like it's a very thin line. Almost, I ain't gonna say line, I mean, it's still bullying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the ultimate bullying.
I never thought about it like that. All right, man. So, all right. Yeah, we got to land the plane. So I want to go some other directions with this, but let's take it out on this note from the both of you. Let's hear some. I don't know whether to say encouragement or whatever it is, but let's just say we have a parent, a child, somebody that may be watching this right now, and they're in the midst of dealing with these, you know, unfortunate situations, and they have not opened up yet. They haven't said anything, and they like, okay, what do I do? What are the proper steps to take? Speak to that parent, speak to that child who may be watching right now.
Okay. You want to take it first?
Sure, yeah. Something you said earlier really stuck with me. Be an advocate, Mom. Be an advocate for your child, Dad. Talk to people at school. Keep your cool, because you know, we were talking before this, and a lot of times, if your child, you find out that your child is a victim of physical aggression or bullying, you know, your parental instinct comes in. You know, who is it? Who did it? I'm going to go down there and wreak havoc.
Yeah.
You need to keep your cool, handle it as professionally as possible, create a paper trail. A couple of other good pointers is check in with your child. Even if your child is not reporting bullying, check in with your child at least a few times a week. How was your day at school? Tell me what's going on. And it's okay to even bring up from time to time, you know, has anyone ever bullied you at school? You know, I ask my own child. I ask him less now, but I still check in with him every now and then. He's 16. My daughter's in college. Got to give a shout out to her. But has anyone ever bullied you at school? Has anyone ever threatened you? Checking in, creating this back and forth relationship where I do a lot of listening, and your child feels comfortable coming to you, and be an advocate when you need to. Because as I said earlier, most children who are victims of bullying are not going to say anything, because they're really scared. They think it's going to make matters worse. My parents are going to make a scene. The bullying is going to really come after me now. So a lot of them are really, really scared.
That's good.
Yeah, and just what he was saying about talking to your kids, asking the right questions. And so if they're a kid who you think, you suspect it, but they won't tell you, ask who they're playing with at recess. Who do you talk to at lunch? That sort of thing, because then you can kind of get an idea of who they're hanging out with. Is it positive experiences? And if you've got a kid with a phone, check it. Check their social media. Like, as a parent, it's your job to protect them, and that might mean being a little nosy. And it's okay, because in the long run, you are protecting them. And so, you know, checking their social media, checking their messages, just to make sure, not only that, also making sure that they're not a bully, because you don't want your kid to also be doing that to another child. And so, yeah, I definitely think having those right conversations, and also just helping the kid talk to the teacher, let them know that they do have other people on their side.
Find a safe adult at school that your child can check in with.
100%.
And do check that social media, because
Yeah.
you pay the bills as a parent.
Yeah.
Come on. That's good. That's good. Man, so, we got to land the plane. last thing, if there is any information you can give out, because they also may have someone that is saying, okay, well, how can I come receive professional services in regards to dealing with this and maybe other things. And so what is that contact number for our children's behavioral health? How can they get in contact with you or someone else at our children's behavioral health?
Children's unit is 225-922-0445. We're right here centrally located in Baton Rouge. Our major website is
realhelpbr.com.
realhelpbr.com is a good one. Let me give out that number again, 922-0445.
Yeah, and so at School Base, we're in several different locations, but if you go to that website, the schools will be listed, and you can contact the school. They should know the capital area social worker. Ask for them. I mean, like at my school, I'm at Magnolia Woods. They can transfer me. I got my own number, and then we can go from there. You can also do a referral at the school.
Awesome.
Another place that can really help parents with advocacy, which is sometimes needed in sort of navigating the school system, is families helping families of Greater Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's a good resource.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, well, look, it's been real. I appreciate you, Shelby. I appreciate you, Mr. Bryan.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the viewers out there. And so thank you for stepping back into the area, man. This has been a great episode. Tune in. Make sure that you like this. Make sure that you share this, comment, and definitely give it to somebody who may need it. You may know somebody, once again, who is dealing with these, once again, unfortunate situations or challenges. Please share this with them, because this may be the very thing to give them what they need to get to that next place or that next step toward their own healing. But anyways, man, thank y'all for stepping back into the area. Until the next episode, y'all be cool.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.